The EL Zone system is an exposure measuring tool created by Ed Lachman actually 10 to 15 years ago. We're super happy to see it more and more adopted through the industry after initial camera manufacturers and also monitor manufacturers jumping in, software manufacturers joining the party. We're super happy that we now see it in the beta firmware of the Venice 2. The EL Zone system is essentially your better false color tool. It's an exposure heat map, but not based on percentages and IRE, but on the language we all speak in stops. So it's a logarithmic curve, stop-based, based on 18% gray with plus and minus 6 stops of actual information. And the absolute beauty is that compared to false color and many other exposure tools, it's absolutely platform agnostic. It doesn't matter if it's an action camera or a full-fledged cinema camera powerhouse like the Venice 2. It's looking the same as long as this dynamic range is actually represented by the camera. That is actually the absolute beauty. You have the same tool that is present in post-production and on-set, present in a professional high-end camera system as well as an entry-level one, and all of that in a very easy-to-understand matter, like warm colors means higher exposure than 18% gray, and cold colors means lower exposure than 18% gray. White indicates clipping in the highlights, black indicates clipping in the lowlights, and yeah, that's as easy as it is. So here you can actually see what happens when my Sony friend Jin is actually pulling the aperture. You can actually see how in real time you get the actual representation where you have 18% gray, which is essentially here, where you have actual clipping, so on top in that softbox, and you see above and below 18% gray, we actually use half stop increments to have a better opportunity to expose 4 faces. And from then on, we're going in full stop increments. And essentially, as soon as you reach another stop, then the color changes. We wouldn't notice, but we actually have, in a Rec 709 image here, but we actually still have detail in that softbox here. Those creases most likely are still visible. They are not clipping yet. And if you turn it back, I wouldn't be necessarily be able to judge that with my own eyes. So only this slide here in the back actually was really blown out. And many people are asking us, yeah, but what's with cameras like the Venice 2 that have even more dynamic range than those 13 stops? Honestly, because it's not so super relevant in delivery and also very, very extreme. There's typically no dialogue on set or even in post happening what pushes this from +7 EV to +9 EV. The question in those cases is only like, is that information represented? And then the only other information that's really relevant is that data still there because you have a sophisticated HDR production, or in some regards also, is that data for sure blown out because we want to create our look on set. And that is why we have those clipping indicators. So even with a camera like the Sony Venice, if you just give it enough light, you can heavily blow out highlights. And if you flick it back to regular imaging mode, here you can see how far it's blown out, which is surprising when we turn the EL Zone system back on, that there's still quite a substantial amount of detail still captured with modern cameras in the RAW. And essentially, this goes back to both Ansel Adams in the really, really roots, as well as to our light meters, because essentially you turn your camera with that 4K output here, essentially in 8.3 million spot meters, because you got a spot meter for every single pixel on the screen. For us, it was, for example, also super important that monitor manufacturers like Sony is also one, and also considering it, but for example, Atomos and Small HD already have it implemented. The idea is to have one language no matter what camera you're using, no matter what pipeline you choose, that is present everywhere, and that is also easy to understand for all of us.